With this presentation I'll briefly cover assemblies. Assemblies commonly referred to generically as a composite rate. That's where you take up a group of items to undertake a certain task. It could be for a metre of footing or a metre of external wall, a square metre of brick, a square metre of slab. It could be for doors or the like. So if I click on assemblies here and assemblies again, and now I can drill down. I'll show you what you can do with doors. So if I drill down on here, I'll do a search. At the moment you'll see there's 1,055 of these assemblies. So if I click on the letter D here, it gives me all of those groups that start with D. So I'll just double click on doors. Now I've got only doors on the screen here. So if I come down to this 2048-20 passage door, so if I double click on that, or I could click on edit here, you'll see in this particular assembly, and we'll cover this in detail in a moment, but you'll notice I haven't got any carpenter's labour in here. So if I say now add a component, and I will drill down to carpenter's labour here, so I'll click on C. This is where I'm looking up the price list here. Carpenter, double left click on carpenter. The one I want to get here is carpenter labour. The unit of measurement is hours, and I've got a rate of $55 an hour. So if I double click here, it asks me first how many workers are there. We'll say 1. And how much time do I want to allow? 1.1 hours. And I'll add that to the total. Up here it tells me how many of these transactions I've done. Well, clearly there's only one of these for this particular component. 1.1 hours, we'll say update. And now you'll see in here that carpenter labour, pardon me, if I close that, you'll see that carpenter's labour has now been added into the assembly here. So there it is. Now I've allowed 1.1 hours. This is time allowance up here. If I put that same value in, 1.1 hours, what that allows me to do is when the estimate's done, if I had a time allowance for each of the assemblies that I use in an estimate, if I had that time allowance allocated to each one of them, it would tell me based on what assemblies and or price list items there are in the estimate as to what time the total calculation for time. It's very useful. Up here we've got a note, and I can edit this assembly note here and come down here, and I can put in here, I haven't got carpenter's labour in there, have I? So now we've adjusted the note as well. So now we've covered the carpenter's labour. Now you'll see here a total cost. Just before we proceed any further, you'll notice a couple of items here that have got a negative value, like the plasterboard wall fixing. I've got minus 3.65 square metres. So what that means is that every time I put one of these assemblies into an estimate, it'll remove that much plasterboard. Now if you don't want that component in there, you simply select it and delete the component, which I'll do here. So if I say delete, I say yes. And another one that's going to be reduced in value is this one here, which is the bullnose skirting, which is displaced by the door. I'll leave that one in there. Generally speaking, that would happen. So if I want to test this out now to check on its accuracy, before I do that, incidentally, if I look at this item here, 31 by 12 square dressed, 5.4 metres, that clearly is the doorstop. So if I double click on here and then double click here again, you'll see that I've embedded in there not just the metres but the cut length. So for every one of these doors I want to buy one at 5.4 of that particular piece of material there. Doing it this way rather than just putting 5.4 metres in as a linear measurement allows us to get a cutting list. Similarly, if you look here at the architraves, I've got 10.8, and if you look at that you can determine that that's 2 at 5.4, but to prove the point, if I double click here and then double click here, you'll see that it's allowing 2 at 5.4 for the architraves. Now I'll just demonstrate what that does for us. So if I come up here now and I say I'm going to test this, this is not doing it as a part of an estimate, this is just testing the accuracy of this assembly. So I want to figure out what timber we need, the cutting list for 10 doors. So if I click on here now, you'll see that in the architraves, in the doorstop I should say, we now need 10 at 5.4, which is 54 metres. The bullnose architraves, we want 20 at 5.4, which is 108 metres. Down here, this is a negative amount of skirting. Now, looking at it in isolation, it doesn't make sense that you would have minus 5.4, but if it's being placed into an estimate along with several metres of doors, like say 50 metres of wall frame, which already has the plasterboard and skirting on both sides, then it then reduces that amount required for the number of metres of walls by what's displaced by the door. And here's a 10 at 5.4 for the jambs. Now we can also test here the cutting list. So I'll click on here. We've done the cutting list. We'll check on the bill of quantity here. Here we're asked if we want to show the prices around the quantity. We'll cover this price A and price B in a different video. So if I come here and say OK to continue, then you'll see that it produces a bill of quantity based on what's required for the 10 doors. And if we go down to the second page, it doesn't have that on the last page, It's only got the one page, so it doesn't give any values for profit and so forth, because we're just testing this particular assembly out. But you'll see how it now costs these items out through to the final cost. So the total cost of these doors, this is a rounded quantity clearly, and you'll notice all these values have been rounded up to their cut lengths and counts. So that's how you can create an assembly. We can print out the list of components. So I'll just check this here to see whether I finish with a carriage return. And if I say list the components, up here it'll tell you what's included in it and give you a listing of what all the items are within that assembly. So it's good for reference purposes as well. So I can close that one. Let's go and have a look now at 1.4. I'll just reset this. You'll see there's only 90 of those, so I'll reset this now. And I'll come over here to the groups and I'll go to internal walls. Internal walls here. And if I take a standard sort of wall, internal wall, 2400 high, set out of 70 by 35 MGP 10, studs at 450 centers. Now that's a fairly cryptic description, but if I click on edit the note here, you'll see that I've got far more detail here for reference purposes, so that's able to be looked up as you select these for use within an estimate too. So you've got every opportunity to describe and customize these assemblies to your own needs. So if I double click here now, okay, so let's just move off that. We'll come here and you'll see here that we've got the description of what's in that assembly there, all the bits and pieces that go with it. Up here we've got a small description, and this is where we can edit its long description if we want to put a longer description on there. We've got up to 100 characters we can type in here to make it a more verbose description of that wall. Here we've got its unit of measurements per metre, its group, internal walls, MPG 10 as a category. Down here you can use either segment, or you can look up there, double left click if I want to, and I can say I can get a linear measurement if that's what you want to do with using on-screen takeoff software. I prefer segments myself, so I don't want to count. Just hang on, I'll just go to segment again. Here's the time allowance, how much per metre in time I'm allowing. So down here we've got the carpenter's labour. Down here we've got masonry nails for nailing it to the slab, connector plates, and you might say here, what is the sense of putting those items in with such small quantities? Well, if they're in the assembly, they're never forgotten. Down here we've got MPG 10 studs, so if I double click on that and double click here, the whole wall is out of this MGP 10, so these are the studs. I want 2.44 studs at 2.4 metres. I want noggin in 4.8 metre length, so that equates to 0.23 of a length, and so on, and they're the plates. So let's have a look at what we get if we say we've got 75 metres of internal wall. Give us a cutting list, and it'll tell us we need 183 studs at 2.4, 18 at 4.8 for noggin, at 28 at 6 metres for plates, and down here we want 30 at 5.4 for skirting. So that's that. Now if I get a bill of quantity, and there you have the bill of quantity, making up all the componentry you require for 75 metres of wall. Up here's 75. Here you've got its unit rate, not rounded, that's the net quantities of each of the items. Here the total extended, so if you take that 12,990 there and look at the actual rounded quantity, it goes up to 13,047, because this is what you have to buy. So that's how assemblies work. There's plenty of things you can do when you're estimating with assemblies. Now, one thing I haven't covered is updating prices. So if we're at this particular stage and we want to update the cost of these items, at the moment there, oh well, that's not a good one to choose. Let's look at something like plasterboard corners. Don't take any notice of these rates, they could be anywhere. But if I wanted to update that rate, I just double click on it. Over here I've got it in here because we've got it in at per metre, and we say this is a fixed price. Say the price goes up to $10, we just simply change that and close. Now the price, this entire costing has been updated. Not only did we update the cost here to $10 per metre fixed, but we've also updated the price list and any other assembly in which that item has been used. So it's very useful for checking prices as you go, so you don't have to laboriously work right through your price list. So there's just a couple of assemblies, and as I say, when the program ships, it's got 1055 of those in the system ready for use. Of course the user has to check the accuracy of them for their own purposes and their own method of construction. So there you have it. That's how you can create assemblies and how you test them. That's the end of this presentation.